Dear friends, today I will be discussing with you a few points from my webinar talk which I gave last week to different places, different groups, and the topic of that is education during and after the pandemic, the post-pandemic period, what will happen to education, etc. So this will be a summary of that webinar. So we will see some important points about education at this juncture. To start with, we see the Congregation of Catholic Education, that is in Vatican. There is a Catholic Congregation of Education which is looking after the entire world, in the Catholic world, creating and making policies and programs for the schools and the colleges in the education as a whole. So it talks some vital things for us to reflect. It says, while the coronavirus pandemic has proven challenging for schools and parents in educating children, it's also a chance for Catholic schools to confront those challenges with courage. This crisis can become an opportunity for Catholic educational institutions across the world to strengthen their testimony to their identity and mission as a community of faith and charity. It also says that COVID-19 has brought some changes. It recalls the abruptness of the pandemic, it added, did not allow time for schools to adopt distance learning methods, which is very clear for us also, even in India. Suddenly this lockdown is declared and people were not prepared to go for online as it is taught today. So this document, it mentions very well, parents also find themselves constrained to adopting to the need to assist their children studying at home. Not all of them are equipped with the corresponding information technology tools, nor are they prepared to deal with the continuous presence of their children at home. Nevertheless, our schools are called to respond to the most immediate exigencies, to ensure a regular conclusion to the academic year and organize for the future, to be able to discern any opportunities which this crisis could offer us. And finally it says, this pandemic has highlighted the fragility of the wounds of society, the poor, the homeless, the elderly, the prisoners, the migrants, the social imbalances, as well as individual and national selfishness. Amid the interruption of ordinary life, all men and women have the duty to consider more deeply the meaning of life, to finding ways to begin again, to live once more, beginning from new foundations, knowing well it never be the same as before. We must look at the future with confidence and solid hope. It urges all of us as Catholic educators, we must have hope. We must have optimism. We must work for the future with courage and conviction. And therefore it says, we must open our hearts and minds to God and to our brothers and sisters with courage and determination, and invest our talents at this present moment. So crisis has given us something very vital to reflect upon. We should not backtrack. We should not abandon halfway. We need to have that courage and conviction and optimism and hope to move forward. This is the context. This is an extract from the document for our reflection. So what am I going to do today? I just explained to you 5 points of IPP. The IPP, that is Integral Pedagogical Paradigm or Ignatian Pedagogical Paradigm, which talks about the 5 elements of education. Education can be only complete. This is a process. This is the methodology. This is the paradigm which IPP proposes. That is, we must understand the context, experience, reflection, action, and evaluation. So we will see what is the context of India, the world today during the pandemic. The pandemic actually affected at every realm of education. In education, an entire generation of children have been affected. Their education is interrupted. Nationwide school closures have disrupted the education of more than 1.5 billion students, that is around 91% of total children worldwide. Huge number. And we know that girls are suffering more, and perhaps there is all possibility, some experts say, that if continue to be out of the schools and so on, children may slowly turn towards or forced towards child labor. We don't know how far it is probable, but possibilities are there. And the no schools means many of the rural areas and the poorer areas and the slums, etc. midday meal like nutritious food programs which government had introduced may not be available for children. So that affects the children's health. An entire generation of students could suffer damage to their learning and potential. Now, what is the reality? The context, when we look at, we must understand, right now in India, when this context happened, this lockdown happened, this coronavirus emerged, we had supposed to be board examinations, nursery school admissions, admission to other classes, entrance test of various universities and competitive examinations. Among others, all are disrupted or came to a standstill during this period. As the days pass by, we see that 285 million young learners in India are out of the school. And we also face far-reaching economic and societal consequences. So as a result, we were searching for options, and this only option which came to our mind is to continue the education is through online classes. And how far this online classes is successful, that is a question we must ask. Only 30% of students are availing the online classes. 70% of our people cannot access it due to various reasons, and that we will see. And government is trying to reach out to people through various platforms, online platforms, etc. Even they have tied up with NCERT, for example, tied up with Rotary International to give online classes from 1 to 12th standard, etc. What is the reality of India? When we talk about this online classes, etc., we must understand the reality of India. Even though the government's Saubhagya scheme to provide electricity to households shows that almost 99.9% of Indian households have electricity. That is a record. But we know that the situation is not that luminous, that brightened when it comes to the reality. Because the government's own account, record, that is in 2017-2018, a nationwide survey was conducted by the Ministry of Rural Development on Mission Antyodaya, and it says that we have only maybe 16% of households received 1 hour to 8 hours of electricity. Only 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. We know many of the states this is a situation in the rural belt. And if you really go for the statistics, it will say 12 hours of electricity is not given to more than 20% of people. So this is the reality which we are faced with. So if you look at these online classes and success, etc., is not that brightened when it comes to the realities. 2017-2018, another national sample survey report on education says only 24% of Indian households have an internet facility. And that also varies state to state. Huge disparity you will find. For example, the UP, Bihar, such states, and Delhi, for example, huge difference. And Kerala, for example, huge difference. So in this context, when we talk about online classes, the success of online classes, in my opinion, it is increasing more and more divide among the people in terms of digital education and not so capable of having these facilities in the rural belt and faraway places. The digital divide is evident across class, gender, region or place of residence. Among the poorest 20% of households, only 2.7% have access to a computer and 8.9% to internet facilities. In case of the top 20% of households, the proportions are 27.6% and 50.5%. So this is a reality. And as I said, each state to state it varies a lot. Okay, so that also we must consider. We cannot simply ignore these stark realities. COVID-19 pandemic is spreading faster and threatened to make education become worse. The virus outbreak across the globe will have immediate cost on both learning and health of children and youth. In the rural belt, only 4% of people have access to internet and gadgets to use it. So this is the context. In that context, we must understand the experience of our parents, our teachers and students. When we talk about education, this is the way we must go. And what is the experience of the parents? There are certain valid concerns the parents are faced with. And they say, for example, they are concerned about one thing, that is safety of the children. That's why the schools are not open. When you ask, you make a survey and you will see parents are not ready to risk their children's life for having classes. They are worried about the safety and security of their children. That is natural. At the same time, they are worried about the continuity of education. They want education also. That's why online classes, they are more or less ready wherever there is facility. Due to online teaching, the child is being exposed to more than screen period. Long time watching the screen strains their eyes, which we know most of the children are using. Not the bigger screens, they are using mobile sets and keeping like this and watching for long times, it harms their eyes. So parents are worried about that. Since most of the parents are doing work these days, those are officers and so on, they are sitting at home and doing the work. That time they don't have time to give their children. The guidance is not given. They don't have time. So there the parents are worried because children needs mentoring, children needs help. And another issue is that it's the on time filling up, the recharging the mobiles or recharging the internet, recharging television sets, etc. Because there also the inflow of money is very, very low for the parents. So they are also worried. Another thing they say is the difficulty in keeping the children engaged at home for a long time. Because when they go to school, there are a lot of activities, there are peer groups, they meet and come back, homework and so on. Today they are at home, so parents are literally worried about that. They are also worried about the internet connectivity, and many of the students do not have this connection, so parents are literally worried. We have seen in Kerala one child committed suicide because of the online class. The very first day when they began, he could not attend that class. So he was worried. She was worried and jumped. In case of heavily rainfall and storms, etc., the inclement weather, etc., it affects also the internet flow. Therefore, what happens? They are worried. At the same time, the concerns of the teachers. Teachers are also very much concerned. What are the concerns of teachers? Number one, teachers are compelled to take online classes which may or may not be effective due to poor internet connectivity. And many of the teachers agree that they are not experts in teaching online classes. Because we were having a method called chalk talk classroom teaching. That is changed suddenly overnight. Simply changed. A demand came for online classes and teachers are not capable in the sense they are not experts in that sense. Okay, and they also say children need guidance. They are at home. Now we can't guide them. How they pick up? So this is a concern which is expressed by teachers. It is difficult for them to show graphs and diagrams and video online classes in a qualitative manner because many of the teachers do not have that expertise to make these things. And they may not have also enough quality gadgets, etc. So that's another area. Some of them may not have even laptops. And therefore they lack resources and gadgets, etc. So we must understand this difficulty, this hurdle. And lack of technological guidance, anxiety. They have a lot of anxiety about the future, what is the future of their profession, etc. And another experience, when we must talk about the experience of children, concerns of the children. What are the concerns of the children? Children says loneliness, so much of loneliness, not getting opportunity to meet their friends, no sports activities, that simply hitting them. Because children in the developing psychology will say they need to play, they need physical activities, which is not happening. Long hours of online classes, no holidays in the real sense. Parents do not have time to be with them. That then energy is not being utilized properly, creatively, innovatively. No communication with their friends, that is a very big drawback these days. They're confused because even during summer vacation they are being involved in completion of various activities, etc. And there are many other issues. So if these are the experience, so we saw the context, we saw the experiences, now let's have a little reflection on it. We need to act now to preserve and strengthen health of food systems in every country around the world. UNICEF says that we need to preserve this. UN had come out with that 17 SDGs. All of us know that 17 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals for 2030. It started in 2015. And out of that one, almost 8 areas we need to pay attention to. It says, eradicate extreme poverty and hunger, achieve universal primary education, promote gender equality and empower women, reduce child mortality, improve mental health, combat HIV, AIDS, malaria and other diseases. And other diseases we can include this coronavirus, ensure environmental sustainability, develop a goal partnership for development. All these things are, and there are other. So total 17 sustainable development goals have been placed by the government, UN, for all the governments, all of us. Have we failed in all this? I doubt, because we don't see that much grassroots level happening in these terms. If so, if it would have happened last 5-6 years, suppose we have implemented, every government had implemented this, then this corona pandemic would not have affected us this seriously. Now, we as Catholic educators or Christian educators, progressive educators, we also have certain values to practice. And what are the values? I just one by one I just read the heading. That is enough for you, that we will understand. Number one is we stand for pursuit of excellence. Excellence we have to keep up. Excellence is competence. Second, respect for the world in its history and mystery. Learning from experiences. Contemplative vision formed by hope. Development of personal and potential. Each one is, multiple intelligence, etc. We talk about each one has a particular potentiality. We need to increase that, enhance that. Critical thinking and effective communication. Appreciation of things both great and small. Commitment to service. This is a very important point for us to reflect. Today, we understand, in the light of the coronavirus, we understand service sector must be a very important sector for us to reflect upon and prepare ourselves. And we need to have a special concern for the poor and the oppressed. Linking faith with justice. Our faith must express justice, equity, international and global perspective, and discerning mindset, finding God in all things. How serious are we? That's a question we must ask ourselves. So in the context of this context, experience, reflection, now we need to act upon. Now look at the children. We must act by looking at the children and their difficulties these days. Watch your children. Is there any signs of COVID-19 illness? Support your child. Give them some kind of realistic information about COVID-19. Keep children healthy by all means. Take them for a walk maybe. Allow them to have some games. And mentally, that is about the physical. Mentally also, let them be creative. Ask them to do something new at home. Let them get engaged with the household activities. Let them write a poem. Let them write beautifully. They make some kind of artwork. Allow them according to their talents and interest. Allow them to take part in the gardening and so on if there is a possibility. Cooking, for example, with the mother or father, whoever is, all house together. You must work these days as they are at home. Encourage them to do some creative works, which is very, very important. And when we look at, my dear friends, when we look at the hotspot districts in India, we see it is almost spread out all over India. Every state has been affected. As it is affected globally, it affects our country also. And countries and communities around the world must work together to address this crisis. As we have learned painfully in the past 2 months, until there is a vaccine, coronavirus anywhere is a threat to people and everywhere. We need to act now. And so far the government and governments and organizations have come out with certain measures. What have we done? They have done introducing online classes, modules, providing online as well as offline classes, rearrange academic holidays. Definitely that is a good thing government has done. And even adjusting the curriculum, extra classes to make for the lost class time, assigning class mentors. Many of the schools have done it's a good job. Quarantine activities for learning and fun. We make a lot of activities at home. I see the principals and so on, they tell me a lot of activities they have given interestingly, and cancel internal exams etc. now. And we have a lot of practical suggestions to give, which I am not going to deal with here, that governmental restrictions and governmental instructions we must follow. But then we need to work out some system at this juncture for the future. One thing is clear, there is no escape from this pandemic crisis. And the pandemic has taught us also one thing, that we need to be hopeful. We need to come together, work as a team and prepare ourselves and walk fast. They say, imagine that you are standing on the shore and you are watching a tsunami coming in. If you are going to stand just there and watch the tsunami, you are finished. If you can run fast as you can, you have a better chance. And I think the situation is like, it is not about a tsunami or going completely finishing, but the thing is, as educators, we must work for newer ways. Run fast means we need to make a drastic and immediate and positive measures to overcome these problems. Are we doing it? Are we running fast? That's a question we must ask ourselves. Finally, we know that in this crisis, the young and the most vulnerable suffer disproportionately. This pandemic is it is no different. It's our responsibility to prevent suffering, save lives, and protect the health of every child. Children are our future. We must care for them. I think if we really understand this current situation and work unitedly, we can overcome this problem. There are 3 areas we need to look at. The critical approach for educational emergencies is this, that the first thing is we have to prepare ourselves. We cannot simply follow the same rut. We need to prepare ourselves to cope up with the emerging situation, and we need to recover whatever is lost. And therefore we must have this idea in back of our mind, that this world, this educational world which we had, is not going to continue anymore. Post corona era, we will have a new world, a new thinking, a new way of functioning, a new way of approaching things, a new way of educating. I think that is the reality we are all going to face with. And therefore, we need to be hopeful, optimistic, creative, innovative. There is always a better way for us. Coronavirus will go away. We will continue our works for the future, making better citizens for the world. Thank you very much, and God bless you.